Meat is taking up too much space on your grocery bill. Today, we shrink it. Let's get cooking. There's much to do. Life can be a struggle, but a good meal doesn't have to be. We can make creative, nutritious, and inventive dishes that won't break the bank. Welcome to Struggle Meals. Many of you have been asking me what to do with a giant pork loin. I don't blame you. They can be had for as little as $2 a pound. If you chop it up the right way, you can get multiple meals with many different flavors. That's what we're gonna do today. Here's an entire pork loin. It's on the back of the pig, from the shoulder all the way to the back leg. This is the perfect kind of meat to start butchering at home. There are no bones, and it's very, very simple. There are many ways to break down a pork loin. I'm gonna show you what I think is the simplest way. It starts by dividing it into thirds. So here's the centerpiece. You can see the very, very lean end. It's gorgeous, just like that. But I think we should cut it in half so that we can have two different flavored roasts. Let's work on this end over here. See how it tapers? This tapering, it's not really great for the kind of cooking that we want to do. So this can be stew meat. Look at the two parallel lines, like where they stop. All this comes off. And this gets cut up into chunks. You can make kebabs with that. So now what we have here, they're like cutlets or thin chops. You can pound them out or not. I think we can get 8 out of this. I really do. All right, now this guy. We've got our stew meat once again, our end pieces. You can see that this end is much, much fattier. See what a difference this is? Because I see that the ribeye is starting. This is so flavorful. These are gorgeous steaks. These, you treat them well. Look at that. So now that this is broken down, we can really see the lean end and the more fatty end. Breaking it down and cooking each one of these pieces the way it should be cooked, based on the fat content, that's the best way to cook food. I got a meal here, I got a meal here, here, and then I have another one here. The variety is off the charts. This right here, the pork loin, broken down, is $20. And obviously I can't eat all this at once, so I'm gonna start freezing up the pieces so I can eat it throughout the quarter ahead. I've got all my parts, I labeled everything. All these go into the freezer, and then I'm gonna cook these 2 ribeyes. This is a really flavorful cut of pork chop right here. Doesn't need a whole lot more than salt and pepper. Here we go, oil, and the chop goes in. Gorgeous. Keep an eye on it. It doesn't take very long. Here we have delicious pork tenderloin. Depending on how many people you have to feed and how big your pork loin was, this is one of potentially 8 or 9 meals. Cooking pork is just like cooking any other meat. You wanna make sure you don't dry it out. You wanna take temperature with a thermometer if you can. And the number one thing you can do to ensure that your meat is extra juicy is give it a little time to rest when it comes out of the pan or it comes out of the oven. This lets all the juices inside redistribute, and that way when you cut into them, they don't spill out, they stay inside. And that means more juiciness with every bite. Give it a try, you got nothing to lose. Really nothing at all, and everything to gain. $2 a pound? Come on. Ground beef is a great way to get some affordable meat in your system, and my favorite vehicle is in the ball form, the meatball form. And it doesn't have to be ground beef. You can make it your own, because the beauty of the ball is that you can put whatever you want into it. So let's make some meatballs. Let's start with some garlic. My grandma always used to put raisins in her meatballs, so it's something that I've adopted as well. And I have them soaking in water here so that they don't pull moisture out of the meat. All right, so we've got some ground beef here. 80 lean, 20 fat. I mean, if I see something that's fattier, if there's 75-25, I go for that. Fat is flavor, remember that. I'm supplementing this relatively lean beef here with some pork sausage. And probably the best part about it is that it's got a lot of spices and herbs in it already. It's seasoned, so it brings a whole lot of flavor. We're gonna put an egg in there to bind. Going in with some salt and pepper. Parm. If you happen to have any stale bread or breadcrumbs on hand, you should add them in. But we're going low carb today. So I'm going with cheese and a refrigerator. Helps solidify everything, keeps it together. How about some parsley? Get a little pop of green happening in there. You don't wanna overwork it, but you do wanna make sure that the egg gets everywhere, because it sort of solidifies a little bit, and that helps keep the ball in shape. Now I make my meatball. Boom. we're gonna put these in the fridge. I'm gonna do it naked so that there's fridge airflow over them and it helps dry them out a little bit. Remember, we're going carb-free here so that there's no breadcrumbs to absorb that extra moisture. So the fridge movement of air, that's what's gonna do it. Just 20 minutes. It's gonna solidify a little bit. I just did this week's crossword puzzle. Took me exactly 20 minutes, which is exactly how long the meatballs needed in the fridge. Okay, let's put some oil in the pan here. I'm using my spoon. I am putting the meatball in. We're browning here. If you have a deep fryer, it's a really great opportunity to get all sides at the same time. This is one of those steps that you just really can't skip because you get caramelized, delicious flavors. All right, so we've got an onion. This is beautiful. We don't need any oil in the pan because we have all that rendered down beef and sausage fat. All right, I am not making a spicy meatball, but I am going to make a spicy tomato sauce. Hot pepper right into the fat. Ooh, tastes like raisin water, because that's what it is. It's non-alcoholic wine. Raisins are grapes. Wine comes from grapes. So I am gonna deglaze the pan with my raisin water. I think it's brilliant. So deglazing just means that you're bringing the temperature of the pan down with some liquid, and anything that was stuck to the bottom of the pan is now released because of that liquid. Now we're gonna come in with a can of whole peeled tomatoes. These are really delicious. They are already pre-peeled, and if tomatoes are not in season in your region, this is the best bet. I'm gonna crush these tomatoes because I'm so hungry. The sauce is very liquidious, and we need to make it thicker, and we do that by adding heat. Look, our sauce right here is really, really liquidy, and that's okay, because we're gonna cook the meatballs in there. We're gonna braise the meatballs in the spicy tomato sauce, and maybe we have a spicy meatball after. So if you wanted to be carb-free, you could be like most of the Italians and just have your meatballs in your sauce. But I know you wanna have a noodle. How do we keep it carb-free? Zucchini is definitely the easiest option for a vegetable that will mimic a pasta ribbon. But you could use spaghetti squash. Listen to the name, it's a cousin of spaghetti. You could also use a sweet potato. You could cut it up into nice strips and boil them real quick. Remember we were talking about moisture content before? Zucchini is like, it's all water, man. And so we can just toss them really quick in a pan and try to get some of that moisture out. Okay, you see how it's just starting to collapse on itself? We're done. Don't mess with it anymore. Well, the meatballs look gorgeous. Okay, meatball number 1, meatball number 2, and meatball number 3. So I'm just gonna put some sauce in here. I feel like I should put some noodles on top of it too. $2.41. We have a very high protein meatball with a very low carb pasta made of no pasta. First, I wanna try the meatball. That is very delicious. The meatballs are fantastic, and they really are so spicy. So, you asked me for a high-protein, low-carb meal. This is a perfect deliverance of that. Meatball is a great vehicle. It's affordable, it is high-protein, and you're able to stretch the meat out, but it can really be whatever you want. It could be turkey, it could be chicken. Not only is it a spicy meatball, it's a fantastic meatball. Give it a try. The raisins, forget about it. At this point, you should be able to envision a grocery bill with a much smaller meat portion because we swapped out expensive cuts for cheaper cuts. And it turns out the cheaper cuts have more flavor anyway. It's all about the techniques, the vehicles for these cheap cuts. It's the braising, it's the broiling, it's the baking, it's the meatball technique, stretching out the meat with other ingredients. And finally, these are all high protein, very low carb dishes. And I think that that completes the picture here because it's not just about low cost and delicious flavor, it's all about nutrition. So it's like the triangulation of struggle meals. We have completed it. It's all here now. Welcome to Frankie's Corner, where I answer your questions. Fantastic question, Andrea, and there are a bunch of answers and ways to deal with this. The first is that we can stretch out the meat with something like a sweet potato, so there's filler. The other is to focus on the vegetable as a main ingredient. So I'm thinking chicken and broccoli or beef and broccoli. Many cultures have this combination, and the good part is broccoli has a ton of protein, more so, pound for pound, than meat. True.